This is a D6 generation pip. Yeah, one of those dots on the side of a six-sided die. Yeah, a pip, a short pip, little something. About anything gaming related. Sometimes featuring Craig, sometimes featuring Russ. We'll see what's coming up today. Hey everyone, welcome to another D6G pip. This time around, Craig is off doing something play-like. He's working on the play. It's that time of the season, so he's a very busy gentleman. Meanwhile, we're always experimenting with new things to put on the pip, and this time I thought I'd try something exciting and different. Well, I don't know if it's exciting. It's definitely different. But I thought I'd try something I like to call, and Craig's not here to come up with to counter my crazy names for these segments, an audio unboxing. That's right, a live audio unboxing. So I just got a new game that I am super excited about. It is, in fact, a Games Workshop game. Now, Craig has been dragging me into various Games Workshop mini games that have been coming out lately, like Shadow Spire and the more recent Necromunda. Of course, I have, a long love-hate relationship with Games Workshop here on the show. Listeners from the very first episode will remember my comparison of Games Workshop and Privateer Press, how I had to become a Privateer Press fanboy. Still a big fan of Privateer Press, despite their ups and downs of late. But I have also said that I really, really enjoyed the latest edition of 40K. I wouldn't say it's the most strategic war game on the planet, but you add those cards and objectives in there, and it's just a heck of a lot of fun in an amazingly interesting universe with so much diversity. It is just off the charts. Now, in the latest edition of 40K, my two favorite armies ever in Warhammer 40,000, as longtime listeners will know, are two. One is the Imperial Guard, which were the very first models I ever really painted outside of Dungeons & Dragons. And I have still had that Imperial Guard collection forever. It is the army I've never gotten rid of. I still play it to this day. And it's an army that has models in it from every genre, including Rogue Trader era 40K in it. So it's kind of a nice little memento of mine. It's something I've built up over many, many years of play. But the other army, the other faction that is won a place in my heart over the years is, of course, the Orcs. And I was a huge Orc fan, particularly in the early 2000s, ever since Gorka Morka came out. I think it was the late 90s, I feel like. And I was an Orc fan ever since. Ever since those fork Orc models, I built a good-sized Orc army. A huge fan of the Orcs, right up through Mega Armor knobs and all that stuff. When I departed from 40K around, was it 6th edition or so, I did end up selling my Orc army off. And so I've been kind of quietly ignoring Orcs, but every once in a while I dabble in 40K again with the Imperial Guard. Well, the previews that they've been doing for the Orcs in 8th edition have really got my attention. And of course, what also got my attention was the new Orky game that literally just came out, Speedfreaks. This is Gorka Morka reborn, hopefully at a whole new level, but also with some of the first opportunity for me to get my hands on those crazy new Orc vehicles that also, of course, could be used in Warhammer 40,000. So what I'd like to do with all of you today right now is all I've done is take the shrink wrap off. I'm literally sitting in the parking lot right now in the D6 generation mobile audio recording studio, which I have to show Craig this. I have upgraded my preferred vehicle, which is a Jeep. It is not red. It needs to be red. That's a flaw in my plan here as an Orc. However, I have upgraded my vehicle here to be basically a mobile audio recording studio. And it seems to be working pretty well. So I'm hopefully looking forward to showing Craig this upgrade. But I'm sitting here in my mobile audio recording studio just outside the game store. I literally walked out with my fresh, still shrink-wrapped copy of Speedfreaks. I have removed the cellophane, but I have not opened the box. So I'm about to open the box live right here on the air with all of you listeners here. The box itself is very glossy. It's a beautiful looking box. It says Speedfreaks on the front with various pictures of Orc vehicles. And it says high-speed combat in the 41st millennium. And as I spin it around, look at the back, it shows a table full of what looks like a terrain piece. I don't know if it comes with a mat or not. We'll have to figure that part out. But it does come with, we're going to find out about the mat in a minute, but it does come with, looks like at least two largest Orky vehicles, one for each side, and then it looks like three sort of bike-size vehicles for each side, or it might be two bikes on one side and three on the other. No, it's 3 and 3, sorry. So two Orky vehicles, 3 little bikey vehicles, a few pieces of plastic terrain, and then a few pieces of other terrain you can use as well as also what looks like, I'm looking at the back of the box here, I'm about to dive in a minute, Cards for each of the vehicles with stats, along with screens for each of the player. And it looks like you're going to lock in dice rolls behind the screen to do different things with the vehicles. So I'm looking forward to seeing how those rules work. And this won't be, I won't be able to cram in a rules review here. This is more of a first impressions as I open the box sort of situation. And then I'll touch base with you guys later on how I feel about the game. So I'm opening the box now. Can you hear that noise? Wow. There's a little wog in there when I opened it up. I don't know if you heard that. Ooh, so the first thing that strikes my fancy, already like this. Ooh, this is cool. So I'm looking at, of course, a giant pile of plastic on the top level of the Games Workshop product, which is not a surprise. So lots of sprues. But what is a pleasant surprise for me is that these plastics are all different colors. So the first thing that jumps at me are this giant terrain sprue here. And it is all sort of this dark brown, not quite black, but dark brown plastic. And these look like piles of junk, things you might find in a junkyard if the junkyard was full of orky bits, right? So it looks like a couple of walls, a couple of piles of impassable terrain. Looks really cool, chock full of tires. And looking at this is, if you didn't want to prime it, it's almost a dry brush away from being really beautiful terrain. But a quick coat of primer and a quick dry brush also is going to look beautiful in this. Lovely terrain, extremely orky. There's old grills in here from orc vehicles with the tooth and teeth still on them. Big engine blocks stuck in there. Tires with all kinds of spikes in these piles. Just really nice looking terrain that would be at home on, obviously, in Speedfreaks, but also at home on any 40K battlefield as well, or any Dark Future battlefield, or if you're playing one of those games that has like a Mad Max sort of feel, this would also fit right in there too. So I like that sprue. But also the other sprues are all different colors as well. So what's neat about this, already it looks like it's good for gamers who don't want to paint. You got to assemble everything. Don't get me wrong. These sprues are chock full of detail, but I'm looking at looks like several red-colored sprues for the one faction and several yellow-colored sprues for the other faction. And it looks like, I'm looking at like a sprue each for each of their large vehicles. And man, these things are full of detail. I mean, so much. Let me look at one of the large sprue details here. So every little thing is a separate. The tires are two pieces. Or I assume they are. I can't really tell. There's awesome looking little individual fenders. There are all kinds of great pipes and exhaust pipes that are going to just be festooning the vehicle, I can tell. There's even down to like the shocks and the springs are all separate bits on this. The orc body looks like the driver is like at least 5 or 6 bits as well. Looks like there's a grot hanging on the side of the vehicle with a gun. Some kind of cool looking orky weapon here. Really good looking bits on that one. The other vehicle, large vehicle sprue, similar levels of detail, but I can already tell just looking at the bits, very different. A nice looking vehicle as well. Oh man, I can't wait to put these things together. Really excited about that. Now, just for listeners who know, I know there's some folks out there who really prefer, and I know I'm leaning into the mic, so I apologize, but I'm just like Googling over all the parts. Some people like to pre-paint on the sprues. I like to assemble first, then paint. So my general plan is assemble, prime, dry brush, which picks up the highlights, and then go into the details. Looking at these sprues and seeing the level of detail here, I don't think this is an airbrush situation in which, you could airbrush it obviously, but it's not going to have a lot of flat surfaces. These surfaces are all got bumps and bits all over them. Dry brushing is going to pick them right out if you're lazy like me and like to dry brush. So each faction looks like they got this giant, awesome sprue, and then each faction also has 3 half sprues. It looks like one for each bike. Actually, no, it's the 3 half sprues work together to form 3 different bikes. So one sprue is basically bike bodies, along with wheels. Again, lots of cool parts here, down to looks like long claws, giant hammers, axes. So many cool bits on these bikes. I mean, they are just looking awesome. Wow, these bits look great. These blow away the old orky bikes that I have from like 3rd and 4th and 5th edition. Oh my goodness, these are great. Gone are the long guns on like little wing platforms here. These guys just look fantastic. So So the bits alone, worth the price of admission. I should have said this. The game is $150, right? So you're getting 2 orc vehicles. Excuse me, I'm so excited. I'm coughing myself to death. You're getting 2 large-sized orc buggies, essentially. They're definitely bigger than the old orc buggies. These things are probably, I'm going to guess, maybe as long as a rhino, but not as wide. But they're in that ballpark, I'm going to think, when I get them all fully put together. Maybe a little shorter. I don't know. It's hard to tell the way these are going to come together. But I feel like we're somewhere between a land speeder and a rhino size. So these are 2 vehicles that size. And then you got 3 bikes each. So 6 bikes, think of it this way, 2 land speeder, like Space Marine land speeder size things, and 6 bikes for $150. Who cares how the game plays, right? That is a great deal for GW models. So, and they look awesome. So I'm not worried at all about that stuff. I'm already happy with my purchase. Oh, and then not forget the cool terrain I've got as well. So this was already worth the price of admission. These games are going to sell. These things are going to sell like hotcakes. Our local gaming store had a bunch in stock, but man, once the word gets out of what's in this thing, it's going to be gone in a heartbeat. Now, the next thing is I dig deeper into the box. So now I've gotten past the sprues. And now what's kind of fun to make this fun opening, it kind of feels like opening an Apple product, I'm not going to lie. The next level below all the sprues is a nice piece of artwork that looks like it reproduces the cover of the box in a nice piece of art. It is double-sided. One side says Speedfreaks, and the other side is the great piece of art. You could pin it up in your painting area or just throw it away. Up to you, but it is nice. And then below that, now we're down into the guts of the game. Now, what's cooler is I can already see there is a well-folded cardstock board that is going to make that desert-like battle terrain. So this is great. This has got the Christmas Day thing going on here where I've got everything I need to play. I've got a really, really thick cardstock game board. I'm going to guess its size. I can't really unfold it here in the car, so I'll let you know more. But it looks pretty big. I'm going to have to check in the rule book on that in a second. Then below that, I'm looking at, let's see here. I got my rule book. Well, I've got piles. I've got these large bases, which are obviously for the larger vehicles. So the two, the big ovals you usually see on flyers. So there you go for scale and size. The ovals for the larger vehicles are about the size of the oval that goes under the Valkyrie for the Imperial Guard. So it looks like, I don't know what the standard base sizes are now in 40K. But yeah, so that's the size of the vehicle is going to fit on there. And then the bike sizes are the smaller ovals, right? So you've probably seen those a million times. Then I've got a sample chapter here from the latest Dan Abnett book. Ooh, but it's about orcs. The Beast Arises. Well, that's going to be a read. I got to check that out. Now below here, I've got all kinds of cool D6s, but these are obviously special D6 dice. There's 2 colors. There's yellows and reds, all with different symbols on them. There's like, looks like gun sight sort of symbols. There's explosion symbols. There's some kind of maybe like a shield symbol, a lightning bolt. So I'm going to guess that these are dice you're going to roll. And I'm guessing the red maybe is attack and the yellow is movement or something. I don't know. We'll figure that out in a minute. It looks like I've also got several decks of cards. These are normal size cards. Great artwork here. The art is covered with the checkered patterns you normally see and all kinds of orky glyphs on the back of the cards. And I'm looking at the back of these cards here. It looks like I'm looking at extra grippy tires and boosters are broken. So it looks like one deck here is equipment you can put on your car. And the other deck looks like boosters broken, looks like critical damage cards. So there's also critical damage effects amongst possibly other things. I haven't opened up those yet. I'm also now looking at, this is fun. I'm going to open this plastic. You can hear me. Can you hear me open the plastic here for the microphone? There's a giant plastic sleeve that is full of, look at all this cardstock. So these are big, wide, I'm going to say 6x4 maybe inch cards. So oversized cards that are the sort of the cards for your buggies and your vehicles. So there's one here like the Megatrack Scrapjet. And it's got a bunch of sort of lug nuts on them here for the different stats. So you got an armor stat, hits, melee, and driving skill. Those seem to be your core stats in the game. Each surrounded by a nut. So like in this vehicle, the armor's 4, hits are 9, melee's 3, and driving skill's an 8. It then has a little table below that lists the weapons on the vehicle. So this particular one's got a rocket cannon, twin big shooters, a rear twin big shooter, and there's also a column that indicates firing arcs. So now we know the game's got firing arcs as well. Already excited about this. And then I've also got wing missiles on this bad boy, the Mechatrack Scrapjet, which fire forward. The weapons each have a range column. All these weapons are 12 inches in range. A number of shots, so I'm assuming that's how many dice you roll. Some damage, which must be how much damage you do. Most seem to do 1, but a couple do 2. And then there's an ability column, and a couple of the weapons have special rules. So, for example, the twin big shooter lets you re-roll 1s on your attack roll, which makes sense because they're twin linked. So these things sort of make sense. So and there's also a little column to the right. So on this card, it's cool. There's a little picture of the actual model in the upper right-hand corner, all painted, so I can tell which vehicle is supposed to map to this card. There's some cool artwork of the driver in the lower right-hand corner, and then to the right of all the abilities and the weapon list, there's also a separate, stats and weapon list. There's also a separate abilities section. And this vehicle has 3 different abilities. It has an explode ability, a supercharger ability, and turbine screw drill, which makes sense because the front of this vehicle's got a giant corkscrew sort of drill bit situation going on front there. And then what's nice is it also actually states what these abilities do. So that the full rules for this vehicle are on there. And as I flip through these cards, I'm able to see, which is really cool, pictures of the models all painted up, the different stats. The Boom Daka Snag Wagon looks awesome. And so what I'm starting to wonder now is there are way more of these cards than there are vehicles in the game, I think. Let me just check. For example, yeah, so there's 2 big ones there, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so I think there might be different loadouts that either you build your vehicles different ways, or you may have to, or you maybe you just can pick which one you equip. Yeah, but the Megatrack Scrapjet, oh no, I think maybe there's looks like there's 2 variants of each large one, and then 2 variant, and then a bunch of the bikes. So interesting, so that's cool. So you're going to have basically your stat card. Also, I should mention on the back of the stat card, they talk about an overview of the vehicle. So in the back of all the war bikes, even though they're all, let's see, the scrap, oh yeah, here we go. They list this little paragraph about the vehicle itself, and then a whole backstory. So really great fluff on the back of these cards too. So if you're unfamiliar with orcs, or if you're like me, you just haven't had a good orc overview in a while, this looks like a lot of fun. So I'm already loving the fluff. I'm loving the high level mechanics. I love firing arcs. That always makes me feel warm and fuzzy about a vehicle game. Something you don't get in 40K anymore, so that's nice to see. The skills seem good to me. The dice make it looks like pretty simple mechanics. Let's jump in and look at more stuff in here. So you got all these cool vehicle template cards, or I'm sorry, not template cards, but vehicle stat cards. We've already looked at our little hand cards. I've also got 2, looks like player screens. Let me open these up and see what these look like. These seem cool. These are in a resealable Ziploc bag, so I like that too. So I'm pulling this out, and it looks like, oh, I see how these work. So first of all, each player's got a screen. I love the art. So on one side of the screen, this screen has folding sides, so it stands up in front of you. On one side, it shows an orc driving. He's great. Oh, I can't even describe this arc to do it justice. A great close-up of an orc driver screaming while he grips the steering wheel with flame shooting up behind his head from this jet. Looks awesome. The back is black, but there's also this little mat that goes behind it that you're going to put face up, and it's got 3 sort of symbols. Looks like a speed, sort of engine temperature, and some other circle. And judging from the back of the box, it looks like you're putting different dice pools back there to lock your dice in for different commitments. So my guess is you're going to roll some dice to give you some number of actions, and then you're going to commit those dice to 3 different sort of pools that are going to force you to program what you're trying to do for. Maybe you're doing maneuverability versus combat. Who knows what? I'll check that out in the rulebook in a second. The other thing I'm running into now is I'm now down past the piles of, most of the piles of stuff. So I've looked past the big cardboard board, which takes up a large part of the box and most of the weight. I've gone past the 2 mini decks of cards. I've gone past the player mats and screens. Excuse me. And now I'm down into the rule books and sheets of tokens. So I've got lots of sheets of tokens. Amongst the sheets of tokens, let's look at those first before we get to the rule book. So I'm going to pull out the sheets of tokens now. I'm moving this out of the way here. Hope this is interesting. I'm having a blast. Sorry, I apologize for this. It's fall allergy season, so I'm terrible. And I'm not at my normal desk where I have all my drinks. So now I'm down to the tokens. And I'm having a blast because I'm looking at a game for the first time. I hope it is translating okay on the audio. So I'm looking at the tokens. I haven't unwrapped them. They're shrink wrapped. I'm not going to take them all apart right now. But what I am looking at is it looks like the game definitely has turn templates a la X-Wing or those kinds of games. But what's interesting is these turn templates are super orky. So they're not just, turn left 90 degrees or whatever. One's like a half U-turn. They're all jagged and clunky. The straight one's not even straight. It's like zigzag. So clearly orcs can't drive in a straight line. I love it. There's one that's a U-turn. There's these little short movements. There's like shifting lanes. There's like a U-turn maneuver, which is kind of cool. Almost like a kick turn. Wow, all kinds of crazy orkiness. There's going to be lots of fun maneuvers, I can tell. And then in addition to the turning templates, it also looks like most of their tokens here look like they've got their little squares with bullet holes in them. So I'm going to guess they're like some kind of wound token as well. And then there looks like there's some kind of sequencing stuff and maybe a player 1 token. So most of the tokens, it doesn't look like a super complicated game, which I'm already liking. It looks like it's really just around turn templates and damage tokens is most of the tokens. Okay, so last but certainly not least, let's take a look at these books. Now there's 2 what I would describe as booklets in this box. Both of them graced with the artwork of the screaming driving troll, who also is on the cover, the front of the player screens. Now, one book, the rule book, is nice, glossy, firm cardboard framed. It's still a booklet, but it's a stapled booklet, but it's nice and glossy and looks like it could, take a drink spill on it and be okay. The other book, though, is paper, but it's almost equally as thick. And it's also full color, but it's the assembly guide. So it looks like, and I'm going to the assembly guide first, the back of the assembly guide shows the assembled vehicles and painted. The inside of the assembly guide, let's just cut to the news you're going to care about, which is how many pages is this thing. So I'm trying to see if I can get a page count here. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like there's page numbers, which is a ding against it. But let's see. Well, there's no page numbers, unfortunately, in here. It goes step by step to assemble the different vehicles. So, to give you an idea, assembling the Shock Jump Dragster is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages. 8 steps, 6 pages long, really clear assembly. So that seems cool. Then there's the Custom Booster Blaster, which is also 9 through 19 steps. That's the other big vehicle. And then you get into the war bikes, and each war bike is about 2 pages of steps. 3 pages of steps. And that's it. So all the assembly instructions are probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pages of this thick assembly book. The back half of the book is stats. So, neat. So the back half is 40K stats for these vehicles. What? Awesome. So the back half of this thing is the actual 40K stats you would see for this stuff if you were to field in 40K. So basically, I can field these guys in 40K tomorrow. That is awesome. It does say, these essential rules will get you units on the battlefield, but for full rules for this unit, see the codex relevant to your army. So basically what they're saying is, here's some get you by rules to play these things in 40K, and then you can, of course, when the new Orc Codex comes out, you'll have all that stuff. I'm sure it'll cover it. As you can see by my surprise, I didn't know research on this game. I just grabbed and bought it because orcs. All right. And then, so basically the reason it's thick is because they have these rules in a bunch of languages. So basically it's a double-sider that covers the Shock Jump Dragster, the Custom Booster Blaster, and the War Bikers. So those are all the same stats in 40K. But of course, in this game, they're all going to be a little different because you're going to have cards to upgrade them and everything else. So super cool. And then in the very back, they have painting guides here with actual GW colors you can use if you want to try to mimic the painting styles they did. And so they did one faction in sort of reds, and they did another faction in sort of yellows. So that's this is what a deal. $150, man. So now I've got $150, 2 large vehicles, 6 bikes, full 40K rules, and I still haven't even gotten to this game that it comes with. All right, so now I'm at the rule book here for Speedfreaks. Now this, again, glossy cover. The back's got different painted vehicles, which is interesting. Wait a minute. I almost feel like some of these guys don't come in the core game. Ooh, they don't. So, okay. So 2 of the vehicles. So remember I told you there were more cards in the game than vehicle types that are included. So it looks like there's going to be an expansion already because I'm looking at the assembly guide and it covers one of the vehicles that's got a low front, looks like a dragster, and the other vehicle's got a higher front and it's got like an orc with a cannon turret on the back, right? But then meanwhile, on the back of the rule book, there's 2 different vehicles, and one of them's got the drill on the front. So the one with the drill on the front isn't in the core game. So that's going to be an expansion I'm going to want to get. So that seems cool. Unless there's a way to assemble it. Is it assembly options? I haven't figured that out yet. Let me take a look at that, see if there's an assembly option for that. If it's like an A/B choice on that sort of thing. It doesn't look like, that's the one with the scoop, so I can't do that one. Let me see if the other one can be the one with the front. No. So so the ones that come in the core game are the, let's see, just to be clear for everybody who's an orc fan, the ones that come in the core game are the Shock Jump Dragster and the Rocket Truck Squig Buggy. And the 2 additional ones that are shown on the back of the rulebook are the Boom Daka Snazwagon and the Megatrax Scrapjet, which also looks awesome. So these all look good. I'm going to have to buy all these things. So it looks really cool. So there you go. I got that from the last 2 pages of the rulebook, which has full colored covers of all the different vehicles you can have. All right, so let's go through the rulebook at a very high level. The rulebook overall looks like it is 24 pages. Beautiful art. It's got some nice, the classic orc racing checkers on every single page and a nice dirty sort of grubby page look. But the entire book is full of color, full of pictures of models, as well as some really nice artwork. So jumping in the beginning here, there's a couple pages of intro, start your engine. So that's not going to be a heavy rule game. I can tell you that right now. The third page is just a high level overview of the game. So again, no rules. I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, fourth page is just what's in the box. Fifth page is data cards. Sixth page is general rules. Wow, there's not a lot of rules in this game. The general rules game is very much as just like there's dice, there's obstacles, there's firing arcs. Sixth page is actually, or the seventh page is actually like the actual game round. So there's the cunning phase, the speeding phase, the shooting phase, and the fighting phase. So I'm guessing the cunning phase, players are allocating their dice. So it's exactly what I suspected. You're going to roll some dice, and you're going to allocate them into different sections. And then there's one page that basically describes each of the phases. So in the cunning phase, you're going to assign your dice. I'm going to have to research this, but this looks really awesome, into these different categories. Then the speeding phase, you're going to lock in your maneuvers based on the dice you assign. And there's some examples here which allow you, the different dice symbols you chose allows you to pick how many different gubbins you put in front of your vehicle to see where it goes. And so it looks like, although again, I'll have to read through this in more detail, but there's not a lot of words on each page, lots of pictures. This is not a heavy book to absorb. This is a super simple, in terms of game complexity go, this is nice and low. I think you could play this with pretty young kids if you don't mind them thinking about orcs and shooting each other. So there's some great pages here on how to do the gubbins, which is basically putting together your turning templates. And it talks to you about how to do that. So you basically work them in sections. So if you have enough dice, you can do multiple sections for your maneuver. Then it talks about driving tests. So I'm guessing that based on where you end and what you touch as you move, you got to make some rolls to see if you lose control of your vehicle. Then there's a shooting phase, and then there's a fighting phase. So it looks like there's shooting, and there's also hand-to-hand combat sort of situation. Again, the shooting phase is not even a full page. It's a page and a quarter, but again, the words are so big and the layout's so large, this is super simple. It looks like you're going to roll dice and look for symbols. And the fighting phase looks similar. And then there's rucks. I don't even know what that is. I'll have to figure that out later. Oh, obstacles. I think rucks are like terrain and obstacles. And then, rucks is missions. Oh, cool. I didn't catch I got to think my head in English mode. So these are different missions. So you're going to roll and see what the missions are. It looks like there are, oh, cool. The layout looks great. So it looks like this giant thick board thing distributes into 3 boards, and that allows you to set up different board layouts. So these board layouts can be 1, 2, 3 in a row, or you can make them, it looks like, there's actually 4 of these boards. So you put all 4 boards together. It looks like you're going to end up with something like 2 by 2, or maybe I'll have to measure it and get back to you guys on this, but it looks like it's going to be something like 2 by 2, possibly. But sometimes you put them all lengthwise. Sometimes you only use 3 boards. I'm looking at the missions now. Sometimes you put all 4 lengthwise. Sometimes you put all 4 in little quadrants, so you get sort of a more traditional gaming table, a nice rectangle. And then there's the big race, which looks like it requires 2 sets. So I'm going to guess the big race, unless there's a lot more boards here than I think. Oh no, you can do it all with this one. Holy crap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 boards go into that one. So that's a pretty big haul there. So nice. So that's the big race as well. So you've got what did I come back with? 1, 2, 3, 4 different missions you can play, which looks fun. And then there's some bonus rules in the back here. The bonus rules in the back seem to create asymmetric factions. So now you can go ahead and bring the orc clans. So you can choose to be the Evil Sons, the Bad Moons, the Death Skulls, the Goths, the Snake Bites, or the Blood Axes. And each one has a special rule. So, for example, the Goths have Defightiest, and you can reroll 1 attack die for each Goth, for a Goth model when it attacks in the fighting phase. And for contrast, the Evil Sons, they're Defastest. So once per round when moving an Evil Sons model, you can reuse a special gubbins that has already been used in your speed mob that round. So I guess they're a little more maneuverable, it sounds like. Really cool. So again, cutting taxes for the blood axes, the old ways for the snake bites, flashy guns. See, this is just enough flavor. GW's getting really good at that, I got to say. And then there's custom jobs, which I guess is the ability to customize your cars, right? Which is another thing. And then there's even a campaign section. I got to admit, it looks a little light. It's only 2 pages, so I have to see what that looks like. But, hopefully you can tell by my energy and excitement, I am most pleased unboxing this thing. My next steps this weekend, I'm hoping to get a little assembly time in. So I'm hoping to get these things built and maybe primed so that next week, we'll see, or sometime this weekend, I can get a game in, maybe either with my kids or with Craig. and let you guys know how this is going. So there you have it. That is the first audio unboxing for a D6G pip. Let me know what you think. If this was helpful, if this was cool, if this was lame because you've already got your copy. Let me know, and look for a future pip where I talk more about Speedfreaks, either in Achievements in Gaming, or I'll probably dive in and give you another little segment on that.
Achievement unlocked! You've made it to the end of another D6 Generation episode, the podcast whose humor has universally been acclaimed as not too horrible. Please let us know what you thought of the show by emailing us at info@the d6generation.com. If for some inexplicable reason you actually enjoyed this show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. Thanks for listening, and happy gaming.